I'm so excited to show you the new LaserPecker LP5. This laser cutter / engraver just arrived. The hardest part of putting it together was getting this white box out of the cardboard box because it was just packed in there so tightly, and now I think I need a nap. Okay, fine, I'll resume opening this. But this thing was packed really well. The hardest part was just kind of getting everything out of its own little foam section. Oh, I don't think I need that instruction manual. Just kidding. You'll see later that I absolutely needed the instruction manual. But they did this so carefully. It comes with a bunch of materials, and the cutting pad and all the cords and everything have their own little spot within this foam carrier. So you know where everything is. It's perfectly labeled, and honestly was just really easy to put together despite the fact that I messed up a few times. Plus you get these really cool safety goggles. Because it's a diode laser, you're going to want to wear those anytime you're operating it, especially if you're operating it without the safety enclosure. I did get the safety enclosure. I'm not going to do my review on that right now, but I'll have that in a future video because I didn't really test it out when I was first testing everything. The LP5 is a 20-watt diode and fiber laser. You mostly use the fiber for engraving and then the diode for engraving and cutting. This means it won't work on like clear acrylic, but I'm going to definitely test it on colored acrylic, and I tested a bunch of materials that they sent in the materials pack for you here in this video, so you'll get to see how it handled things like leather, wood, metal, and I was especially excited to test out paper because that's commonly a difficult thing for laser cutters, and I'm in the business of wedding invitations, so we use a lot of paper. So let's put on our safety goggles and get this thing put together. All right, there's really only a couple steps involved in putting this together. You're going to put the arm onto the base plate, and then you'll put the cutter machine onto the arm as well. You're not going to do it like I did, so don't do it straight out like this. You want to turn it at an angle to where it's 90 degrees to the arm, and I'm going to figure that out in just a second and go through and fix it. So yes, I did need that instruction manual after all, but really there's only a couple steps. Then you're going to attach the little safety cover on the front. I recommend taking off the lens cover and then just make sure you don't ever touch the lens of the laser because you don't want to smudge that for any reason. Now we're going to start the cord setup. There's a security key included that you need to have in the machine at all times, and then you can use a USB cord to attach it to your computer the first time you set it up, but then you can set it via Wi-Fi, and I've had really good results with that, even though my Wi-Fi sometimes kind of sucks. When you take it with you, all you'll need is either that USB connection if you want it to your computer and don't have Wi-Fi, and a power connection. So it's really portable, really easy to move around with you, and you don't need a lot to make it work on site. Now I'm going to attach the air hose so that you can vent the machine. Because it's portable, you don't need to have it in a permanent vent location, which is a real benefit compared to some other laser cutters. Okay, here's my Vanna White moment. Isn't she beautiful? Let's get her cutting. I downloaded the desktop software to start, but they also have an app, which is unique to a lot of other laser cutters I've tried. So we download everything, we open up the LaserPecker software and create an account, and then we're going to connect our device. The first time you do it by USB, and then you can do it by Wi-Fi later. Now, I really like designing in Adobe Illustrator, so the first thing I decided to do was test something in Illustrator and see how it moves over into the LaserPecker design space, because I don't have much interest in learning a new software just to learn this machine and get it cutting. So I started with this little blob and I saved it as an SVG file and then brought it over into the LaserPecker design space. You can upload any kind of image to the LaserPecker design space, but I find that SVG keeps some of the original contours, fills and lines, strokes, etc., and translates the best into a readily cuttable file. So over in the LaserPecker design software, we will use this little image button on the left panel, select our SVG file, and pull it in. And here it's brought in as a cuttable line already. If you bring in a JPEG or something, you might need to use their image trace feature. However, an SVG is going to already be a cut file. And my daughter tested all the materials they sent for durability and flavor, and she said to start with some engraved and laser cut leather. I'm going to use my font hydrangea for the engraving, and then I added some ellipses here in LaserPecker Studio for the hole as well as the outside oval. These orange outlines will go in under the line settings, and then you can set different settings for fill. So when I select this name Catherine, the fill button at the top left is yellow, that little pentagon there. So that means this will be an engraved fill and it can have different settings. This is my font hydrangea, which I think is going to be really cute engraved on the leather. As a reminder, the LaserPecker LP5 is primarily an engraver, so it can cut some thin things like up to 1 millimeter of leather, but it's not going to be able to cut super thick leather. Now we're going to do our first cut, and here's what I did for the fill as far as settings. After I played with it a little while, you can see some of those holes in the top corner of the leather. And you can actually see the LaserPecker working, which is so fun. Here are the settings I did for the lines, the outside oval, as well as the hole that your keychain was going in. And I love watching this thing go up and down. You don't have to bring it up and down every time, but I thought it was really fun. And these came out really beautifully. With a depth setting of 96, I still had to tear these out a little, so I might take it all the way up to 100, but I think they turned out so cute, and I can't wait to send them to my clients whose wedding invitations I'm working on right now. Now this machine has this cool safety cover that can go up and down, and the way to focus the machine is to get these two dots to meet in the middle, which I found is mostly having the safety cover pretty much all the way down, and then you'll know it's focused. And you have that blue square that you saw earlier, which is going to show you exactly where the design is going to be placed. So we started trying to cut on this brass coin that they sent with us. I made a little design for my daughter with her name, Daisy, and my font, Daisy Beth, that I made for her. And let's see how cute it turned out. Drum roll, please. I'm so excited to see this one. Oh, wait. Literally nothing happened. I had really bad settings for this metal, so I looked up some better settings on a YouTube video and tried this one again. Okay, I checked here, made sure it was actually cutting my little daisy design, and then we did our metal cut. One thing I noticed with the metal cut is that it takes a lot longer to send it to the machine than it did for any of the other materials. But I understand why, because metal is going to be a harder thing to cut. So these are the settings that I ended up using that worked out a lot better. Let's see what this ended up looking like. Okay, this one actually cut something. We do need to refine our settings a little bit on the bottom. It got a little messy, perhaps because the machine wasn't fully focused. The settings might have not been perfectly dialed in. So I'm definitely going to play with that a little more, but in my business, I don't see using the metal engraving. So while you can create some really beautiful things, I'm probably not going to be the one to teach you the metal engraving on this particular machine. So then I decided to move on to paper, which is my favorite material to work with and interesting when it comes to laser printing. So we're going to cut this cute butterfly place card with the name Emily in it, and see how we can work with paper. It's very different than working with metal, so I found that it was a lot faster sending it to the machine. You could cut with pretty low power and high speed, and as long as you had the depth up pretty high, you could get through this thick cardstock with no problem. Bodie came to see what was going on. He found it very boring. And this first test I did, it didn't cut quite all the way through, so I increased the depth to 94. Here's the settings I found have worked really well on a bunch of different papers that I've tried at this point, as well as vellum, which is really fun. Whenever you're laser cutting paper, fire is a possibility, so you definitely want to vent it. You'll get that kind of burny smell also with wood, but I think it turned out really beautifully, and I just love this cute butterfly. So the last piece that I tried was this wood keychain that they sent, and you can see with that blue registration box, you can move it real time. It's going to show you exactly where your design is going to be, so you can get perfect placement every time. I even rotate this one slightly at the end. And I want you to pay attention to this engraving because it is real time and it goes so fast. You could take this out with you and do engraving on site. It is that fast. It's only a couple seconds to get the full name on here. Of course, that will depend on your font choice and the weight, etc. But look how quickly, yeah, it's done. And I swear that was real time. So with the LP5, I tried leather, the brass coin, paper, and this wood keychain. And here are all of my final thoughts. Overall, I'm really enjoying the LaserPecker LP5 and excited to explore more. There are a couple things I really like about it. The first is how it handled paper. It's hard to laser cut paper, and I thought it handled really well once I got those settings dialed in. I also think the portability is a huge asset. You could just take this somewhere with you. You can move it in a lot of different directions or take it on site with you, especially like those wooden tags that we just engraved were so fast. You could do that on site at an event, which would be so fun. Seeing weighs approximately what my daughter weighs, which is 16 pounds right now, maybe a little more than her, but it would be so easy to bring with you. All you need is a power adapter. And if you're connected to Wi-Fi, you can use it that way, but otherwise there's a cord that you can use to connect it to your computer. I love that the laser head goes up and down, so you can print on taller materials. There are attachments for rotary, like tumblers, glasses, round things, etc. So overall, I think it's a really versatile machine. The cutting size is approximately 5x7-ish. There's some ways you can get around that a little bit, but I think that's a decent size for some of those small engraving and cutting projects. I still haven't nailed down the brass and other metals cutting settings, but those are less important to my business. And I was really happy with how it handled leather, paper, and the wood. Also, I'm excited to try some acrylic soon. It would have to be fairly thin acrylic probably to cut all the way through, but we could engrave on thicker acrylics. And as a diode laser, it's not going to work on clear acrylics, but I am going to try some colored acrylics to test those out. I'll put that in a future video. If you're not able to use the hose to vent, then you should definitely invest in the safety enclosure. I'll also have that in a future video once I get it set up. And I'm excited to test some other materials. So if there's anything you want to see, definitely let me know and I can include it in a future video. I'm pretty excited about this. My biggest, not hesitation, but the thing that frustrated me the most about setting this up was just using the software, because I am a graphic designer. I'm so used to using Illustrator. So I highly recommend using a different software that you're comfortable with to make most of your designs and then bringing them over into the LaserPecker software, because it's not as intuitive when you're used to Adobe programs or some other programs already. And who needs to learn a new software anyway? Just design where you're comfortable and bring it over. And I love that you can do that very, very easily in this software. So let me know what questions you have about the LaserPecker L5. I'm really excited to explore this baby and hopefully take her on the road with me. I'll put my affiliate link in the description of this video. I would love if you used it, if you enjoyed this quick review, and I hope to get some other reviews up soon to show you testing on other materials as well. Thanks, everyone.